How are you?
Go with the
Welcome, John.
Oh, hi.
You're upside down.
My my camera is, I don't know.
A bit red, and it's
Okay. I'm not sure. Is it?
yeah, like that.
Wow, but I don't know why it's using the camera at the bottom.
Yeah, the way you had turned it was okay.
If I turn it like that, my computer is upside down now.
Ish, okay. Hey,
I don't
hey,
know.
how do we help you? Just turn it upside down.
Mhm.
Just turn it upside down because now we are seeing you upside down.
Yeah.
Mm, you don't have to stay like that.
Okay, but I cannot see myself now.
Yeah, don't worry. Just trust that we can see you properly. Just trust that we
Okay.
can see you just fine.
Yeah.
Um, okay. So I'll mute for just a minute so that I can call Nick. Just a minute.
Mm, mm.
Is your camera fine? Working okay now? John, is your camera okay? You're unmute.
Yes, yes, it's working fine now. Yes.
All right. So we'll continue with you because of time.
Mm.
We're already 10 minutes in, and
Wow. Okay.
yeah.
You've
So
tried calling Nick?
yeah, it's not picking up.
Okay.
All right. So
Okay.
let me
Okay.
just give a brief,
Good.
and then we'll continue.
Hmm.
Welcome everyone who might be watching this at a later date. My name is Jessica Wanjiko. I'm with Shamba Jijini, and we recently attended the first agroecological conference that was held at Safari Park. This was at 23rd. Is it like a week ago? I'll get the
Yeah.
exact date. It must have been 23rd of March. Yeah, well, and the this is the first webinar that you'll do in a it is this is a test drive, and you'll do from this one you'll do 8 more, an 8 week webinar series where we'll be sharing more about agroecology, about nutrition, about healthy living, some cooking. We'll have a chef join us and share their knowledge. We'll have the experts from Shamba Jijini who will be sharing their knowledge because this is a knowledge sharing webinar series, and we are really hoping that it will give us traction even as we plan for the next summit that for Shamba Jijini in this year 2023. So I will introduce to us John Baga, who is also part of the Shamba Jijini community, and we will have a discussion over the next 30 minutes about what we learned during the agroecological conference that was held a week ago, and it was a week long conference. And there was so many learning, so many breakout rooms, so many things that we picked, but we'll try to highlight. We will try to share our knowledge or learnings during the event. So I'll give this chance now to John to introduce himself, tell us about what he does in relation to his profession and Shamba Jijini. So go ahead, John.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Jessica. My name is John Mbaga. I also am part of Shamba Jijini. I basically I do a couple of things. I am a teacher, I'm a lecturer at Catholic University, part-time lecturer. I also am an urban farmer, so I do urban farming just in my front yard garden here. So, and basically, yes, I think I have an interest in agroecology. So basically agroecology, growing food, which is in an environmentally friendly way, but not only that, but also food that is healthy for us to eat. So avoiding things like pesticides and the like. So I'm happy to be part of Shamba Jijini, which is an initiative which brings together different stakeholders, people in the different industries, nutritionists, people who are chefs, people who are even in different sorts of engagements, farmers, what have you, so that we can have a discussion about healthy living and growing food in a healthy way. Yeah, basically, yeah. So thank you. Happy to be with you.
All right. So even before we get to the learnings from the conference, maybe on an exciting idea, just tell us more about what you do, like what you grow in your urban garden, and when you started, and how you're faring on, what small challenges you're facing, and what are the joys? What are the joys? What are the pains of your urban farming project?
Okay, thank you. I grow a couple of things. Actually, my garden is right out here. So I do vegetables. I do spinach, sukuma wiki. I've done a few tomatoes. There's a time I did also some potatoes. I also do a bit of composting, which is just the basic stuff. And I try not to use mineral
Tell us what you
fertilizers.
mean by the basic stuff.
Pardon?
What do you
Yes.
mean? Yeah,
What am
when
I?
you say basic, what is that basic stuff? What are
Basic
you
stuff.
composting?
Yeah, just basic stuff like using, cattle manure or using my own kitchen waste, composting using my own kitchen waste, just taking it and then putting it for a couple of days and rolling it over until it becomes compost. So I also had a worm farm. I used to keep some worms, but it didn't go so well. So I'm hoping to start it again. Yeah,
The
basically
red leaflet, the red
regular
leaflet.
worms. Yes, red
For
regular
the
worms.
compost. Okay.
Yes. I kept a few, but it did not go so well. So I'm hoping to restart it again. But at the moment, that's what I'm doing. Basically, doing some front yard gardening, and that's it. Yes.
Okay, there's something else I'll also ask you about. I know you
Yes.
are quite involved in environmental something. Yes, remind me and also share with my audience more about that.
Environmental, yes. Basically, I have an interest in environment, an interest in something called circular economy. So circular economy, basically agroecology uses some aspects of circular economy because you look at something like composting. Composting is you're taking something that is a waste and converting it into a useful thing. So you're basically circulating a resource which would have gone to waste. So basically circular economy is creating that, reuse of something that would have been wasted. So basically that's my interest, circular economy. And that's something that I'm doing also. As I said, I also teach at Catholic University. So that's something that I'm also doing as part of my own research in my own undertakings. So basically, in short, that's what it is, without going into the details and the jargons and all the things. Yeah.
So now let's delve into the conference.
Yes.
Let me start with my own highlights. One of the highlights that I learned is about adopting the agroecological principles. I know there are 13, which is a lot, but there are things that we
Yeah.
can each undertake in our individual capacity or in our organization's capacity, and start practicing them. Like yeah, can I remember all of them? But those principles are key. And
Can you
also the
remember maybe
principle.
like 3 or 4? Can you
Sorry,
remember like 3 or 4? Can you remember like 3 or 4?
you're putting me on the spot. Can you remember the
No,
three
just
or
ask.
four?
So just asking. Okay.
I would have to go back to my notes, but we'll do a series on those, discussing the
Mm,
agroecological principles.
yeah.
So, guys, look out for that. Something
Yeah.
else that was also key was encouraging collaborations, such that
Yes.
we are not working in individual silos and cocoons,
Mm,
but we are working together. And for any of us who might be watching this at a later date, this is what we want to do as Shamba Jijini, is to collaborate and bring together a team of experts.
mhm.
Sorry about that. Bring
It's okay.
together a
It's
team
okay.
of
It's okay.
experts, yeah, who will bring their skill sets on board,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
we also create a for learning, a for
Mhm.
learning, a for learning space for
Yeah.
people who are new to agroecology, people who are new to regenerative farming, people
Yeah.
who are new to all these principles that we are advocating for,
Mhm.
that are kind of trying to reverse the effects of
Yeah.
commercial large scale farming. Yeah, so we have an audience. Let me say
Yes.
hi to Lucy and anyone else who might be watching this at a later date. So, John, tell me, what were your major learnings?
I think, okay, first thing is just that collaboration is important. I think many times, as you said, when you're working in silos, you're doing something and you're not even aware of what somebody else is doing. So if you come together with a group of people who are like-minded, you can be able to assist each other. I mean, I just came across. I met somebody I teach with in one of the colleges that I teach. I met her at the conference, the Agroecology Conference, and yesterday we bumped into each other over tea. And so that's the discussion we are having. You're having a discussion on agroecology, and they are saying, like, yes, we have this piece of land. We want to start doing some farming. So I was asking, I mean, do you want to do commercial farming or agroecology? And she said agroecology, definitely. Those are some of the
Awesome.
impacts which I think are good. Another thing is networks, just other networks, other people who are interested in what we do. I already have 2 people who are interested in our work at Shamba Jijini, who want to come in and to be part of what we are doing. But I also, to some extent, liked some of the presentations which were being given there. I remember there was a presentation which was trying to compare commercial farming and organic farming. And actually, the presentation was showing that organic farming can be as productive as commercial farming. So
And
that was
even
something
more,
that was
and
even
even
more,
more so.
even
Yeah.
more. So basically, that was something that I picked and I enjoyed during the whole conference. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the other breakout rooms that stood out for me was about involving youth and women in agroecology. And there's a session that I walked into, and someone was, or it might have been the big room. I
Yeah.
know it was a breakout room, and one of
Yeah.
the ladies from Uganda
Mhm.
and another one from Kenya was complaining about how we use farming as a form of punishment for high schoolers and even
Yes. Yes.
junior
Yes.
secondary school, and that
Yes.
brings the wrong attitude or the wrong mentality among the young people,
Mm,
and so they're
mm,
not even motivated to do
yes.
farming,
Yeah.
or they don't see it as a way of bringing income.
Mhm.
And so some of these things need a lot of collaboration or working together, even with the Ministry of Education, such that such
Yeah.
things are not done. From my personal experience, I also had to do a lot of, not a lot, I did several punishments that involved working in the
Okay.
farm. So were it not for my personal love for agriculture,
Yeah.
were it not for my personal love for agriculture, I might not have
Yeah.
continued, continued doing it. Also, the high schoolers who do agriculture in some way or the other, they don't have lots of resources. You find that the whole class is sharing a djembe, or a whole
Yeah.
class is
Yeah.
sharing
Yeah.
a very small piece of land, and they have to do their projects. So they
Yeah.
end up doing the projects half-heartedly, or they don't give 100% into it. So it is important that if anyone who watches this at a later time is from the Ministry of Education,
Yeah.
kindly, yeah, and our teachers, because some teachers are also a little bit malicious, and
Yeah.
they just want to punish students by sending them to the farm. So when you
Yeah.
have that association, oh,
Yeah.
someone else is here.
Yes,
Welcome,
Alice is
Alice.
there. Yeah.
So when we need to change that kind of attitude, Alice, I'll give you a chance to introduce yourself in a few. We need to change that
Yeah.
kind of attitude so that
Yeah.
young people, and so women or young women, can embrace agriculture as a form of livelihood or a means of livelihood. So go ahead and maybe respond before I introduce Alice.
Yeah, I do. Actually, yes, the one of the challenge, like what you're saying, farming as a punishment. And I think to some extent for me, I was born and raised in town. Basically, 80-90% of my life I've grown up in Mombasa or Nairobi. And I think to me, it's more like an advantage because when I start farming, I'm not looking at it as, with some baggage behind it. I'm doing it because I like it. So, and so I think that's the kind of mentality that you need to have, even just as you do the farming. I think there was a speaker in one of the seminars who said you need a doctor, I don't know, once or twice in a year. You need a lawyer maybe once in a year, but you need a farmer 3 times in a day. So, I mean, the importance of a farmer it cannot be overemphasized. It's so important. And that's why I think we need to keep on having this conversation. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that's true. We need a farmer 3 times a day. I'm actually having this conference in a in a place where people are eating. So at this juncture, I'd like to introduce Alice. Alice, kindly unmute and also come on camera and introduce yourself, and then I'll come to you with a few questions.
Oh, Jessica,
Yes,
hello.
yes, I can hear you.
I'm not able to put on my camera. I'm not in the right
It's
place.
okay. It's okay. Just go ahead and introduce
Yeah,
yourself.
but I'll put it when I'm. Yeah, my name is Alice from Hillside Organic Garden. I'm an agroecologist, and I was in the conference, and some of the things that I really, really cherished is the concept of co-learning that came across, that even the professionals, even the scientists are starting to embrace the fact that they can learn from farmers, and that farmers have accumulated a lot of knowledge, both indigenous and experience, which actually for a long time farmers have been ignored or even thought to be, those uneducated guys who do not know anything. But in their everyday activities, everyday going through their farming, they have learned a lot. They've contributed a lot in seed selection, in animal production and genetics, but all that contribution has never does not count. So that's why it is easy for industrial agriculturists to come and tell them, oh, what it doesn't work, so now use fertilizer, use this pesticide, use this thing and the other. And that has made our farmers to be impoverished because now they have to spend money to do all those things. So
Yes, go ahead. Okay, we lost you there for a minute, but I totally agree. It's best when even these researchers and everyone come and acknowledge the local knowledge, because we haven't started farming now, some of our farms or grandparents have farmed for over 50 years, and they know the
Yes.
varieties that survive during the dry season. They know the varieties that are good when it's raining. So it's good to
Yeah.
bring in their knowledge even when working on big projects, whether be it for commercial or even just subsistence farming, where someone is just farming for their own household food production.
Mm.
Yes.
All right, go
Yes.
ahead.
And because of ignoring that indigenous knowledge, we have lost a lot along the way of things that could work, and we have embraced things that don't work, yet they cost money, and they have made our farmers poorer. Yeah, yeah. Back to you.
That's true. I totally agree. I think in one of the other breakout rooms, there's someone who was doing the cost of, like, yeah, I think it's the comparison that John mentioned, that the cost of doing um, commercial farming compared to this agroecological farming. Is agroecological in some way or the other is much cheaper in some ways, especially also when you look in the long term, where you will not have to deal
Mm.
with some diseases and conditions, and even the soil, because it's regenerative. The soil will be fertile and full, for it will be consistently fertile and full, as opposed to when you're using chemicals which actually deplete the soil, and you have to keep using them over and over again. Something else I would like us to mention is what is this? It has escaped my mind. But Alice, you can tell us if which breakout room you went to that caught your attention, and maybe anything else from the conference, maybe from the seminar room, or the opening remarks or the closing remarks. Then we'll go back to John.
Yeah, the other thing that impressed me or that caught my attention is there was somebody who had done some research on comparison of investments or money that is put in commercial farming versus uh, organic farming. And that research had been done, I think the guy was from Agra, and it's been done in the counties and national government in Kenya, where he came up with results that yes, in whatever in all the counties he went through, and nationally, sorry, um, agriculture seems to not have very good returns on investment. All of it is negative. But now organic farming per se has a lesser negative. I don't know if you get me. That it's you lose money less
That's
because
true.
all the agricultural ventures and for the money that is invested in terms of the money by the national government and the county government in organic farming, yes, it hasn't given back profit, but then the losses are less than compared to the loss that the government goes through buying fertilizers and subsidizing conventional agriculture. In terms of investment return, there's what we call ROI, that is rate of returns or rate of investment interest return. Even though it's negative for organic production, it is better. And to me, I only thought in my mind, maybe it's only that this research has not been done over the years, but this negative would at one point change. The rate of return would uh, get positive for organic farming, because the way I see the trend is that, or I perceive the trend is that the diminishing returns would go less and less and less until it turns positive. I don't know if I'm communicating, but I mean that it's only a matter of time and
We
organic
getting
farming
it.
would become profitable. The rate of
Mm,
return would
I
change
think
to positive.
I
Yeah?
think talking to people from countries like Uganda that has embraced organic farming for longer than we have, and to a larger scale than we have, you can see the positives are actually more in terms of quantity, production quantity, as well as the effect on health and also on the land, crop nutrition and soil nutrition as well, soil fertility or soil health improves when you continue practicing, for example, organic or regenerative farming for a longer period. Maybe because the research that was done had a specific time frame, or it wasn't the evaluation was not done over a long period of time. But as you say, if it was done over a long period of time,
Yes.
definitely we would see that the diminishing returns would actually diminish. That's right. That's right. I totally agree.
Yeah. The other thing, but now on the general feeling about the conference that I picked out is that I felt my Kenyan government and ourselves as Kenyans, the level of transition from convention to agroecology is still very low, and it's not. It's like embracing agroecology for Kenya has been slower than other countries that are neighboring us, Tanzania and Uganda, and that got me very, 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 very concerned. Because I thought now, as a leader, as a regional leader, we are lagging behind, first of all. And then it's like we haven't seen the future, because this is actually the future of agriculture. This paradigm shift has happened even in Europe, where our customers of sugar, of not sugar, I mean of tea and coffee and the places where we export food items have already started changing their mind. Even the kind of production they want is not the normal conventional agriculture anymore. They are sensitive. They are talking about levels of pesticide residues on plants or on produce, and they are restricting all those kind of things. Yet we haven't seen that as a country and started to change our agriculture even on a policy level, on a higher level in terms of government policy. It's like we're still behind. It's like we're still sticking to the old ways, and we are not seeing the future. That got me very, very, very concerned. And I saw we have a lot of advocacy work to do with our government.
Yeah, that's true. I would say our government has been slow because policy making and all that is at our national level. Okay, county level, a county like Muranga is leading by really embracing agroecology. But some of us in different counties are really lagging behind. But this is more so, I think, a national or a government issue, because we know where funding is mostly directed to. It's conventional, and who funds it, we know there's a lot of complexity surrounding that. I would let John respond on that, the issue of Kenya being slow to embrace agroecology. Then I'll come back to Alice.
Well, I think for me, my drive towards agroecology and organic farming is more. It was more due to my chemistry background, because I have a background in chemistry. So initially, when I ventured into farming, I was engaged in conventional farming. So I was using pesticides, fertilizers, in fact, overdosing my farm with pesticides. Yeah. Until later on, when I came to understand the dangers of these pesticides, now analyzing them from a chemical point of view, trying to see that some of these pesticides, the type of complications they bring to us and all that. And that made me, wonder, okay, if I'm using these things and they're bringing these complications, then why are we still using them? So that made me to shift and to say, let me just cut them out let me just start doing farming without any chemicals. Let me just use compost, build up the soil. Of course, it's not 100% transition, because I must say some seeds that I've bought are F1 seeds. I still plant a few F1 seeds, but I don't use any agrochemicals on them. I have maybe a couple of organic seeds that I've planted, but that transition also has its challenges, because in Kenya we are so much pumped with this marketing and branding information. If you open up your TV, I mean, you're going to see adverts about some of these fertilizer companies, the Yara, the ETC, and the others, which really are pumping all this information that you need to apply fertilizers, mineral fertilizers, you need to use pesticides, sometimes even insecticides, which are quite risky. So, and I think that's one of the reasons why people are sort of shying away. I mean, not really shying away, but it's not a priority to people, because they don't see, because you can actually even give information that these pesticides are risky, but people still know they are risky, but they still don't care. So it's an attitude change that will take time, I guess, through movements like ours and others. Kenya, like organic farmers, market, and things like Kenya Peasants League and all those pressure groups. The more we do, the more we publicize what we do, the more people know what we do, and the more they become more engaged, and they appreciate the importance of not just a lot of food, but safe food, because food has to be safe for it to be consumed, and not to be laced with all these different types of toxins, and yet it's a lot of food. Just for example, I mean, we can also just give the example of the aflatoxin issue. I mean, the government puts policies about maize with aflatoxins. There are levels which are, expected to be the maize to have. I mean, maximum allowable levels. There are levels also for pesticide residues, but are they adhered to? Those are the questions that we need to keep on putting and to engage in. Yeah.
My feeling is that we should have the same principles, the same standards that are set for us by exporters should be applied in our country. And of course, it's a tough battle, because even pesticides, some of the pesticides that are used in conventional farming have already been banned in other countries out there, but they keep being used here in Kenya because maybe one way or the other, there are a lot of corrupt officials who let them come into the country even when the active ingredients have been banned in the international community. So when our farmers use them, which is really it's really a cycle that we ought to break, because when those ingredients, when those pesticides are used in our farms or even near an organic farm, but there's a lot of leaking in the water or in the air, and you find that a product that you grew as organic is now, you tried to put it through test, but it is spotted or caught as not being organic because the residue, the pesticide residue is high, and you have no way of saying that I really grew this thing organic. Only my neighbors are not practicing organic, and some of these chemicals leaked onto my land. So there needs to be to grow this movement of agroecology, so that if I'm farming organically, I can convince my neighbors to also convert to organic or to adopt the agroecological principles, and to go ahead and also practice, because I can show them maybe even statistically that this is the yield that I got before I started practicing agroecology, and this is the yield I'm getting now that I'm practicing agroecology. So we need to collect data, we need to push this movement to our neighbors. We start at the grassroots so that it can spread from the roots. If we try to put it from up, yeah, we should do both grassroots and also policies which are made at the higher level. So I think that is also something that was really, really highlighted during the conference, that grassroots movements have to be empowered, but also policies have to change so that these things are not still leaking in the market, whereas they should already be stopped. The laws, the standards that we get in the international market should be enforced even in our Kenyan local market. So it's good that you have brought that up. And the good thing is we met with other advocacy companies or individuals or organizations. They're the Seed Savers Network, the Roots to Food. You know, we met with the Slow Food, who are also advocating for consumption of these indigenous crops and data. If they're advocating for the consumption, I'm sure they are also involved in the production of those traditional foods that are actually filling and more nutritious. So nutrition security was also something that was quite heavily talked about during the conference, as also as the economic empowerment of those involved in the agroecological value chain, be it the farmer, be it the who is the producer, be it the one who is doing value addition to products that are farmed organically. So there needs to be a continuity in the what do you call them, the effects or the advantages of organic or regenerative farming need to continue trickling down up to the end user, or multiplying from the end user up to the top consumer, who might be our exporters. But we need to also empower the grassroots so that they can take it up, they can adopt the agroecological principle from the roots up. Do you have something else to say? And or let me John, if you have something to say, and then I'll call upon Alice, because we'll end this discussion in about 15 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes. John, you go ahead, then I'll call upon Alice.
Yeah, okay. Just as you said, I think it's more of a movement that we need to build, grassroots movement that influences other people. And also something that I heard from the conference was consumer organizations. They have a role to play, and they have a big role, especially in Western countries, where they advocate for, say, food that is organic, that is free of pesticide residues. You see, here in Kenya, our consumer organizations don't seem to have that type of voice. Some of them, I think, they're even influenced by politics. I think I've seen one of the consumer organization leaders in our country is so political on Twitter instead of talking about consumer issues. And those are the things which I think we need to be cognizant of. If we come up as a consumer organization and as consumers, and we say we will not purchase this type of food, the farmers will not grow it. And I heard something like that was happening somewhere in Nyeri. I think I've heard of a movement like that in Nyeri, where if people know that you're misusing pesticides in your farm and all that, they inform each other and they do not buy your food. Basically that. And I think this is brought about by, Nyeri being, I think it has one of the highest prevalence rates of non-communicable diseases. So those are the things that we need to be doing. If we want safe food, then we have to demand for safe food. Basically that. And I think if we, as consumers, we show, we seem like we are okay with it, then farmers will use all sorts of pesticides. I remember when I was a farmer, when I was using pesticides, I remember when I used to have these pests called whiteflies, and I will use one type of pesticides, and they kill the first batch, and the second batch comes up. That pesticide, actually, they develop resistance to that pesticide. I go to the agrovet and I tell the agrovet, give me a more lethal pesticide. And I used to sell those tomatoes to people in the market. And, people don't care. They don't ask, which pesticides have you used? They don't ask which pesticides have you used. And so those are the challenges which we have in our Kenyan market.
Yeah. Well, it's good that you converted, John. I can't believe that you would go for the more lethal pesticide over and over again until your white flies developed some sort of resistance to it. So let me go to Alice. So get back to us, Alice, and then I think after you, we'll just have some closing words and we'll end the meeting.
Jessica, thank you for that opportunity. Yeah, the other thing that I would say that I carried out of the conference, and maybe this is also something I can throw to us, all of us interested in agroecology, is the way there's very little knowledge. Myself, as an agroecologist, I saw a lot of gaps on even the scientists that presented. Um, they really weren't really people who can really command knowledge on agroecology, even in that conference. What I saw were people interested to learn, and people coming from all fields, from finance, from agriculture itself, from community development, people coming from different, but I didn't really see ecologists and the actual people who have the knowledge on how to implement agroecology in a big way. So there's a knowledge gap, and I'm happy that some universities in Kenya, like University of Nairobi, is starting short courses on agroecology, and there was a university in from from Uganda. I think it's Matia University. It had a big presence also, and a command of professionals. But we still do not have adequate professionals in this field, and knowledge base is still growing. So I noticed that, and yeah, I hope this can. This movement of agroecology can grow, and that we can have more training going on, especially here in Kenya, and more universities getting involved, so that it becomes, we also have a scientific base of or a professional base for it. I also got very concerned because the number of farmers weren't as I would have expected. Again, participation of farmers was those people who can actually say, I'm a farmer and I practice agroecology, and wasn't impressive to me. So I hope that can change in future. But I was impressed by the resolutions that the meeting made. The fact that the delegates agreed that transition to agroecology needs to continue and need to happen and need to be at a speed, and every one of us has a role to play. And yeah, we got to be ready to move this field forward. And yes, that's me feeling that's what I'm gonna do.
Thank you, Alice,
Thank you.
for those things that you have highlighted. And it's true that, yeah, the numbers of actual farmers was not impressive during the conference, and as well as people who actually can change policies. It was noted. It was noted that they were not. Very many key stakeholders who, especially from the Kenyan government or even from the Ministry of Agriculture, who attended the conference, which was quite sad, as we actually were conversing and saying that it was opened and closed by our Ugandan friends. Well, it was actually held here in Kenya, which is quite sad. But we hope that moving on, as we hold the other one, or as we plan for the other one 2 years from now, that we'll have all these things noted, the participation of actual farmers, as well as people who command knowledge in our institutions of higher learning. So, all right, let me mention just like in a very few minutes, I went to the field day and we went to Limuru Food Forests, or is it Forest Food, sorry, which are the Brackenhurst. And again, on our I would say a sad note, that farm is established by international people, or rather, the people working at the farm are internationals and not our own people, which was on a sad note. But what they are practicing is quite impressive. Just going back to growing food as it grows in the forest with minimal use of even biopesticide, because if you grow food naturally, like the way they exist in forests, they have a way of protecting themselves, and they have a way of surviving even against pests and diseases. So it's called syntropic agroforestry, and hopefully we'll do a seminar maybe, or that will touch more on it, on the layout of the farm and the ideas behind it, because it has a process to it. But it was really impressive to see that in just 1 year, a football field that was all dusty and lacking a lot of things, lacking moisture, lacking topsoil, lacking soil biodiversity, has been converted to a thriving farm that is producing food for like tons and tons of food, by just practicing agroecological principles and being consistent in the way that it is being in the way that they are applying them, and the way they are growing their food, and knowing the combinations that can be grown in a small, what is it say, a bed, knowing what to grow in a bed such that it gives you the most in terms of output. So that was pretty impressive when visiting the forest foods, and seeing their journey and hearing about what other people are actually doing in countries like Brazil and Netherlands, where they actually have the 4 seasons. They even have snow. And they were saying that it is Kenya or East Africa, we are quite well positioned geographically, because we don't even have the snow or the winter season. We don't have the very hot summers, although we are affected by drought and famine. But in some of the places where we farm these things, though, we can actually farm well, or we can increase our production by applying some principles that have existed in nature for a very long time. So now I will give you 2 minutes to close your closing remarks, and then we'll end this seminar and look forward to the next one. So I'll start with John and then end with Alice. And that I am really grateful for you coming on board and participating in this seminar. Probably the next time we'll do it in a more engaging space like Twitter Spaces or Facebook. We'll keep iterating until we find our audience. So John, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Alice. I think just to second what, thanks, Jessica. Just to second what Alice had said, and on the, excuse me, I have a cough, on the knowledge gaps that we have in agroecology. That is very true, actually. Some of us, we also need more, knowledge or more experience to work with people who have walked this journey on agroecology, so that we become more aware, we understand what's happening in the world of agroecology, so that we can be able to apply it and use it well. But also, just to thank you, Jessica, for organizing this, because I think the more we publicize, the more we make our voices heard, the more people are going to want to know more about it, and they're going to join in this discussion. And that's one way we can be able to rope in more people, especially those who are not yet practicing agroecology, or who are not conscious of food produced agroecologically. So I thank you, and I'm looking forward to the next webinar series. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Jessica. Again, I'll also say thank you because of this. I do hope to see in the near future a lot of advocacy work on to talk to our government. I hope we can have forums and ways to bring in people in the government, because once a government gets the idea, then it follows that the people will do, because even conventional agriculture has thrived under the government policies. If you look at the agriculture policy of Kenya, it's still based very much in upon large scale production, and we know that 70% of our farmers are actually small scale. So there's so many awkward things that are in that agriculture policy. You wonder whether it was made for Kenyans by Kenyans. So we need to talk to our government, advocacy work. We need to bring in ways and which to convince them and to let them know that actually agroecology pays better, and in the long term it will solve, or it can solve or bring solutions, if not to solve, bring some solution to the food insecurity problem we have in Kenya especially, and the issues of drought and the issues of climate change, that it has more resilience. When you're producing agroecologically, you are more resilient to effect of climate change, and we already know the effect of the droughts that have just passed. We understand those things are fresh in our mind, that it can be quite devastating. So if we embraced more resilient ways of producing, that would be better. So we need all the forums, all the ways we can talk to government, and I hope our development partners can work with us to help convince government that agroecology is the way to go, actually, for us to salvage our farming, to make sure there's food, and that we are resilient to effects of climate change, and that we are working to a more lasting and long-term solutions to poor soils, to infertility, to cancers, and to malnutrition and diseases, and all those that cost the government a lot of money and cost our population a lot of money, in terms of taxpayers' money. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I will call upon you one more time, both of you. I'm requesting if you can be on camera so that I can end this. I want to highlight just a few things that you have mentioned about agroecology. Is that one? It's good for the climate. It's good for climate change. I actually had an interview series with several journalists who are just interested to know what would be the effect of adoption of agroecology for the climate. Secondly, we have also seen that agroecology is in one way or the other much cheaper to practice or to adopt, because in the long run one will not suffer from any lifestyle disease. I am very passionate about food security and nutrition security because I'm a nutritionist myself. I know the effect that food can have on the body. I know I have worked with clients who have their issues developed from food intake. So these are things that I hope even our funding organizations and partners and these collaborators will take heed to make sure that these principles, the same way, I keep telling people, the same way that conventional farming was publicized, we should publicize agroecology with the same momentum, with the same amount of funding, so that we are not getting tired of preaching this gospel and even going to the grassroots and motivating the local farmer who is practicing subsistence farming or small scale farming, whether it's an eighth, a quarter, 50 by 100. We need to go to them and empower them so that they can grow agroecologically. I want to thank you very much for coming on board and for speaking with me. We have been here for an hour. Can you believe that? It's been an hour plus. And we will have this webinar series hopefully every Wednesday, or even more frequently. Thank you for committing your hour to speak to me and to continue with this discussion about agroecology. I would say this: if you were given the microphone during that conference, John, what could you have told the 500 plus delegates who are attending, who are in attendance from the different countries, from Ethiopia, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, and even the international community? What would you have told them?
Agroecology is the way.
Awesome, awesome. Alice, what would you have told them?
Yeah, I would have told them that um, the days when we just used to be told and we just listen and just do what we've been told without testing it ourselves are over. It's time now we got something we can check ourselves as Africans, especially Kenyans. We check it ourselves, and that any other person needing to help us, or our development partners, can help us check what we got, our own resources, our own knowledge, our own understanding of the environment that we live in, and that we can believe in ourselves. And that's what agroecology is all about: believing in what we do, believing in what is that we can see in our environment, believing in what is right and what's natural and what is actually there, and learning from what we already have in our environment. So agroecology is the way to go, and there's no going to be turning back. I
Yeah.
even questioning the people in the conventional agriculture. The wave is not going to stop. So we would rather just join it. I
Awesome,
else you
awesome.
get
Thank you.
told.
Thank you, Alice. I feel you when you say that times we will just take things and consume them as they are because they came from, like they came from above. Let me just say from above. It's about time we change that and we embrace agroecology for us. It's actually, we should have applied these principles like yesterday. We are late. And Uganda has shown us we are late. Tanzania has shown us we are late. We ought to be on board fully, and get everyone on board, collaborate and work together to make this not just a movement, but for it to be the standard, like agroecology to be the standard. Thank you so much for being here. I look forward to having you next week. Kindly, now this is for my audience. If you are watching this, kindly share it with anyone whom you find relevant or whom will learn from this. And we'll keep bringing you awesome, awesome information on this channel and also on the Shamba Jijini YouTube channel. Look out for that. We shall tag them on this video as it goes out to more and more people in our audience. Thank you so much and bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.